back to Harry Cole Saves the West. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. You won't miss a thing. Search Harry Cole Saves the West. Click subscribe. Now, we have an exclusive today. Some new polling from the old country. Back in Britain, JL partners have been looking at the state of affairs. For the last few months, Reform have been surging ahead, keeping their sort of nose above 30% as the Tories and Labour flounder, and the Greens are ones to keep an eye on. Coming up the inside, Keir Starmer is an historically unpopular Prime Minister. His Chancellor is a historically unpopular Chancellor, and their budget has been a historically unmitigated disaster. So to discuss all that and more, Tom Lubbock of JL Partners, friends of the show, I'd say. Your colleague has been on many times, but welcome to your first time.
Great to be here.
Thank you. There's something slightly funny in this graph. For after months and months and months and months and months, and absolutely spanking at the election last July in 2024, the Tories have been bleeding out, but they're up. What's going on?
Look, I think Reform have definitely come off their peak over the summer. They were on sort of, as you say, you pointed to that kind of magic 30% threshold.
Where they would break through and they'd be able to,
totally
form a government.
And it's really important for morale. And they've kind of just dipped below that. And the beneficiaries have been the Conservatives. Kemi's back up to about 20%, which is not kind of pulling up any trees, but it's really stemmed the bleeding. Yeah,
I mean, they were down to sort of nearly 15% at one point. No. I mean, she had a rocky start. I think no one will doubt that. I think strategically she made a major error in the fact that she presumed that Labour were her enemy to begin with, when actually she needed to neutralise Farage and Reform first and then take the fight to Labour. I think she needed to sort of wrestle Farage to be the dominant voice on the right. She didn't do that. Yeah. She's beginning to do that now. Her performances in Parliament are getting better. She has, having said we're not going to do any policies for 3 years, she then actually went, that's mental, let's do some policies. Stamp duty in the conference speech, saying we're going to abolish stamp duty, very popular. Slowly but surely, she's kind of getting into her groove, right?
Yeah, and so many of the dynamics here are actually quite close. You look at the parties; they're all very close to each other.
I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, in my lifetime, I cannot remember something as crazy as this. We'll talk about the left in a minute, but on the right, still so fractured.
And that Conservative position relative to Reform is absolutely vital. If they are there or thereabouts come the election, it makes it really difficult for voters. Anything could happen. If Reform are miles ahead, it's an easy message for Nigel Farage. Vote, if you want to get Labour out, vote Reform. If the Conservatives are there or thereabouts, if there are a large swathe of seats they can really win, then it's much more difficult.
I mean, obviously, if you look at that graph, they peaked in August, September 25, up, nudging towards 35%. They're around 30% now. They're down. Now, what is that? Do you think the fact is that, Labour have got their trousers on finally, and they are throwing 7 shades of shit at Farage every day as possible. The Tories have found a quite an interesting way of attacking him, which is attacking him from the right on the economics, which is, that's, I think, quite smart.
Sure.
I think some traditional Tory voters didn't like the fact Farage came out against the 2-child benefit, came out in favour of the scrapping the 2-child benefit cap, plus his sort of slightly fantasy numbers, plus the Russia stuff's. I mean, no one thinks, one thinks that he's on, he's on the blower to Putin or anything like that. But when your former deputy leader or your former leader in Wales is banged up for 10 years for being a Russian agent, and it's not a great look, is it? I mean, is it attrition, or is it? Have they hit a natural? That's what I suppose my question is. Is it a war of attrition that's just sort of working, or have Reform sort of hit a natural ceiling that they aren't really going to get past about 35%?
I think there's 2 things here, and then I'll come on to the natural ceiling. I don't think you mentioned either of them. The first thing is, I think there is a sort of cleansing fire from Labour's incredibly low numbers at the moment. Like, the public have taken another look at the Conservatives, particularly Rishi and the kind of last Conservative government, and gone, was it that bad? Maybe,
well, he was right. No, he was right. Yeah. In the election campaign, he said Labour will put up your taxes by £2,000. Keir Starmer called him a liar. And lo and behold, your taxes, I pay tax in America now, but taxes have gone up, by, on average, at least £2,000. If anything, they were underselling it.
Right, and, it comes up spontaneously in focus groups now all the time. That's really interesting. Yeah, sort of Rishi comeback. I don't think he's actually set for any kind of comeback, but...
he's working for Goldman Sachs now. I mean, we can't afford him.
Anthropic and so on as well.
Yes.
But yeah, there's that warm feeling towards him. And then, look, I do think just the kind of there's a sort of natural peak for reform. I think all the logic says there's some upside left for them.
Yeah.
There's still like the argument, if you want to, people who want to get rid of Labour will have to find someone to vote for. And if reform looked like the obvious choice, then I think there's huge upside for them. But at the moment, we're not at that point. We're not at the election yet.
Yeah, I think, and also you can kind of see, in a weird way, the sort of pact doesn't have to be a pact. Like Lib Dems and Labour had a informal agreement. I say it's probably a little bit more formal than we'll ever discover. In that, large parts of the former industrialised north, the Red Wall, as it was once called, and is now back as a Red Wall-ish, but more sort of pink. It looks a bit shaky. You can see a scenario where reform of targeting those seats and the Tories, back in the Shires are doing that. So there is a capacity. What I want to talk to you, I'll pick your brains out, and we were talking to Mark Francois about this earlier. Obviously, it's incredibly fractured. You've got six, 7 parties all bumping, all practically within the margin of error at times with each other. So it's the most fractured it's ever been. But actually, it's still a left-right block that's about half and half, right? If you add it all up, in a weird way, it's almost like the big coalitions that were the Labour Party and the Conservative Party with these big tents. But the big tents have just now become lots of little tents. And at the end of the day, that divide is there. Is there any... My gut instinct says that if Labour tilt towards unpicking Brexit, joining the customs union, all of which has been suggested in the last 96 hours in various forms and guises from MPs, commentators, Number 10 advisors, is there any... My gut says that hands Nigel Farage the keys to Number 10. Brexit in peril is a perfect... way to unite the right, to bring the Tories and Reform together in a way, kind of like in 2019, but with Farage instead of Boris. Is there any electoral upside for Keir Starmer trying to... Obviously, he needs to unite the left, but is Brexit the thing to do it?
It's a really interesting question. If he could flip a switch overnight, Brexit has become so unpopular as a decision with the public, which gives me no particular pleasure to report.
Is it that how it's... good idea, badly handled, or what the fuck were we
There's a
thinking?
correlation-causation thing, right? Like, bad things have just happened since Brexit. I don't think the public think they're particularly caused by Brexit, but it's seen as sort of totemic of all the bad things that have happened since, and certainly hasn't delivered the growth that those who were advocating it for. Whether and you could say again, it was, we've had the pandemic, we've had a huge global shock, so hasn't had a fair headwind. But with the public, it's pretty unpopular. So look, if Starmer could flick a switch overnight, take us back into the currency union, and then get growth.
Customs union. No, we're not joining the euro.
Sorry, the customs union. You're exactly right, Harry.
I think if we joined the euro, that really would give Nigel Farage the keys to Number 10.
Exactly. I don't think anyone wants to ditch the pound.
I'm not sure the euro would have us at this rate.
But this is the thing, right? Like, it's not that easy, and what you're actually doing in reality. So basically, if there was a positive growth story, he could, and it brought him. He needs an economic narrative.
Starmer does.
And if this provided it, and if this was a route to growth, then you could have that argument with the public. And I think the numbers on Brexit would give him leeway. But actually, what he would be doing is just opening up the massive can of worms again, putting himself in those rooms with EU negotiators. Nobody wants those negotiations again.
I'm not putting words in your focus group's mouths, but surely, presumably, it's like, Brexit was a disaster, but there's not much we can do about it. The only thing worse than Brexit was the process.
Yeah, no, exactly. Reopening it would be a bad idea. If you could get it done within the Parliament before the next election, and then go to the electorate with a kind of offer, maybe. I mean, look. Also, they're in a pretty desperate position here. Yeah. Like, I'm not saying this would be their default position. They definitely didn't think that this was... No,
I don't think anyone thought it would be this bad. Not least people that, tentatively endorsed him for change. Yeah. What is the... Is there... I don't think there is a magic bullet, but what you say he needs an economic narrative, but, you look at Zach Polensky, I mean, I personally don't get it. But he's clearly, his numbers are going up. You got the nutters of your party brigade. If they manage to get their sort of, the conference we saw at the weekend was great fun. Yeah. But the left is deeply fractured. You saw what happened to the German left in last year, their elections. They went down to 16%. There's a scenario in which Labour, that happens to Labour, right? Unless, he is not going to be stay in Number 10 for a second term unless he sorts out his left flank, right?
Yeah, it's a really difficult problem. I do still tend to think a rising tide raises all boats, and that they just need to show the country a competent, economically positive story come the next election.
But look at the growth figures in the budget. You know, they were revised down for 28, 29 when right when there's going to be an election, and that's really when these tax rises are really going to start hurting.
Yeah, I think they see that this is, you know, you can see that from what Rachel Reeves didn't say about growth in the budget, they can see that this is a sore spot, and that, you know, they campaigned on growth and they need growth. But I do think this left-right thing is overdone, and that you just govern well to start with, and then worry about the nuances.
Well,
of,
I'm so glad for Labour that they managed
to
to govern well to start with. I mean, what a brilliant year it has been. Tom Lubbock, JL Partners, thank you for coming in, and come back and see us soon. The Kemi surge.
We'll see.
Was spotted here first. JL Partners, of course, the firm that called. What was it? You got the House right, you got the Senate right, and you got the popular vote right.
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
got the exact Electoral College numbers.
Well, we heard it here first. Tom Lubbock, thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you. Thanks, Harry.